When I turned my key in the lock of Carol's Corner Diner at 5 a.m. on that cold November morning, ready to start the ovens like I had done every single day for the past 35 years, the key wouldn't budge. Not even a millimeter. I tried again, jiggling it, turning it left, then right, but nothing. Someone had changed the locks on my diner. My diner. The one I had opened in 1989 with $15,000 I had borrowed from my late father. The one where I had cooked over 40,000 breakfasts, served 3 generations of families, and raised my grandson after his parents died. My hands started shaking so violently that I dropped my keys on the frozen sidewalk. That's when I saw the light flip on inside, and my grandson Brandon appeared at the door with a smile I had never seen before. Cold, calculated, nothing like the sweet boy I had raised. "Grandma," he said through the glass door, not even opening it, "we need to talk about some changes." Changes. That single word made my stomach drop because I knew, deep in my bones, that everything I had worked for was about to be stolen from me. My name is Carol Henderson. I'm 63 years old, and I've been running Carol's Corner Diner in Springfield, Illinois, since before most of you were born. This isn't just some restaurant. This is the place where I poured every ounce of my strength, every dollar I earned, every dream I had into creating something solid for my family. When I opened these doors in 1989, I was a 28-year-old single mother with a 5-year-old daughter, Sarah, and a determination that scared even me. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I was the cook, the waitress, the dishwasher, the bookkeeper, everything. My hands still have scars from the hot grills and grease burns. My back aches every morning from decades of standing on concrete floors, but I never complained because this diner was going to be my daughter's inheritance, her security, her future. Then, on a rainy October night in 2003, everything changed. Sarah and her husband Tom were driving home from a dinner date when a drunk driver ran a red light. They died instantly. Their son, Brandon, was only 8 years old. I remember the police officer standing in my living room, hat in his hands, telling me my only child was gone. The next day, I picked up Brandon from his school, hugged him while we both cried, and made him a promise. "You will never be alone. You will always have a home with me, and one day this diner will be yours." For the next 20 years, I kept that promise. I raised Brandon while running the diner. I woke up at 4 a.m. to prep the kitchen, took him to school at 7:30, came back to serve the breakfast crowd, picked him up at 3, helped him with homework in a booth while I served dinner customers, closed at 9 p.m., cleaned until 11, and collapsed into bed to do it all again. I paid for his baseball uniforms by selling extra pies on Sundays. I saved for his college tuition by cutting my own salary to almost nothing. I worked through pneumonia, through a broken wrist, through days when I was so tired I could barely stand, because Brandon needed stability. He needed to know someone loved him enough to sacrifice everything. And he was such a good kid, sweet, thoughtful, always helping in the kitchen on weekends. "Grandma," he'd say while washing dishes next to me, "when I grow up, I'm going to help you run this place. We'll be partners." Those words kept me going through the hardest days. When he graduated high school with a 3.8 gigapascals and got accepted to the University of Illinois, I cried tears of joy. My sacrifice had been worth it. When he came back with a business degree 4 years ago and asked to help modernize the diner, I was thrilled. Finally, I could share the load with someone I trusted. That's when Melissa entered our lives. Brandon met her during his senior year of college. She was a marketing major from Chicago, beautiful, polished, always dressed like she had somewhere important to be. The first time he brought her to the diner, I was serving the lunch rush in my old apron, hair tied back, smelling like bacon grease and coffee. She smiled at me, but I caught the way her eyes scanned the worn booths, the outdated decor, the faded linoleum floors. It was a look I knew well, the look of someone calculating value and finding it lacking. "Mrs. Henderson," she said, extending a hand with perfectly manicured nails. "Brandon talks about you constantly. He says you're the strongest woman he's ever known. What grandmother doesn't melt when her grandson's girlfriend praises her?" I welcomed her with open arms. For the next year of their courtship, Melissa was the perfect future granddaughter-in-law. She helped serve during busy weekends. She complimented my cooking. She asked about family recipes and took notes. "Carol," she'd say while we prepped vegetables together, "I hope I can be half the woman you are. The way you sacrificed everything for Brandon, that's true love." When they got married 2 years ago in a small ceremony at the church down the street, I paid for everything. The flowers, the cake, the reception dinner at the diner for 60 guests. It cost me $6,000 I had saved for a new commercial stove. But seeing Brandon happy was worth every penny. As my wedding gift, I made Brandon a full partner in the business. Not legally on paper, but I gave him a key, put his name on the business license alongside mine, and told him we'd split profits 50-50. One day, I told him in front of all our guests, "This will all be yours. You're the future of Carol's Corner." Melissa cried at the reception. She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for trusting us with your legacy. We'll make you proud." The first 6 months were wonderful. The three of us worked together like a real family. Brandon handled the books and marketing, Melissa managed social media, and brought in younger customers. I focused on what I did best, cooking food that tasted like home. We even talked about expanding, maybe adding a bakery counter or offering catering. For the first time in decades, I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't alone anymore. But then, slowly, things began to shift. It started with small suggestions. "Grandma Carol," Melissa said one morning while setting up tables, "don't you think we should update these booths? They're so vintage." The way she said vintage sounded like she meant ancient. "And maybe we could change the menu board? The chalkboard is cute, but digital screens are more professional." I laughed it off. "Honey, our customers love the vintage feel. That's our charm." "Right," she said with a tight smile. "I just think if we want to attract a younger demographic, we need to modernize." Then came the menu changes. One day, I arrived to find Melissa had printed new menus without asking me. Half of my classic dishes were gone, replaced with trendy items I'd never heard of. "Avocado toast?" I said, staring at the menu. "Melissa, this is a diner in central Illinois, not a cafe in Los Angeles." "Trust me, Carol," she replied, already on her phone. "This is what millennials want. We need to evolve or die." Evolve or die. Like my 35 years of success meant nothing. The changes accelerated after that. My family photos on the walls mysteriously disappeared, replaced by modern art prints Melissa ordered. "They were making the place look cluttered," she explained when I asked. My grandmother's cast iron skillets, which I had used since day one, were boxed up because they're not efficient. The red vinyl booths my regulars loved were suddenly too retro and needed replacing. "Brandon," I said to my grandson when we were alone in the kitchen, "I feel like Melissa doesn't respect what we've built here. These changes aren't improvements, they're erasures." "Grandma, she's just trying to help," he always replied. "She has a business degree, she knows about marketing and brand identity. We have to trust her expertise." Trust her expertise. Over my 35 years of actually running a successful business, the real transformation began on September 12th. That morning, I received a call from my brother's lawyer in Iowa. My brother James had passed away from a stroke, and I was the sole heir to his estate. Specifically, I inherited his 80-acre farmland that he'd been renting out for years. The property had just sold to a development company for $180,000. I sat in my office at the diner, staring at the lawyer's email, tears running down my face. James and I hadn't been close in recent years because of a silly argument about Mom's jewelry, and now he was gone. But he'd remembered me. He'd left me this gift. What I didn't know was that Melissa had been standing in the hallway, listening to every word of my phone conversation. "Carol." She appeared in my doorway, her face perfectly arranged in an expression of sympathy. "I'm so sorry about your brother. Are you okay?" "Thank you, honey," I replied, wiping my eyes. "James and I had our differences, but I loved him. At least he left me this farmland money. I was thinking I could finally replace our equipment. The walk-in freezer is 20 years old, and the ovens need work." "That's wonderful," Melissa said, sitting down across from me. "Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about the diner's future. With this inheritance, we could do something really special." Over the next week, Melissa's behavior changed dramatically. Suddenly, she was back to being sweet, attentive, helpful. She made me coffee every morning. She complimented my cooking. She even suggested we have a girls' day to go shopping together. "Carol," she said while we prepped for the lunch rush, "I know I've been pushing too hard with the changes. I'm sorry. This is your place, your legacy. I just want to help it thrive." My heart softened. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe she really did care about the diner and our family. "Melissa," I said, stirring a pot of soup, "I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe we should consider some bigger renovations. With the inheritance money, we could completely remodel the kitchen, update the dining room, maybe even expand. This place could be everything we've dreamed of." Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh, Carol, that would be incredible. Brandon and I would love to help you plan everything. We have so many ideas." That night, I heard them talking in the apartment above the diner where they lived. I was closing up the kitchen, and their voices carried down through the old heating vents. "She's completely on board." Melissa's voice came through, excited and sharp. "The old woman is ready to pour all that inheritance money into renovations." Old woman. The words hit me like cold water. "Mel, I don't know," Brandon said, and my heart lifted slightly. "Grandma worked her whole life for this place. It feels wrong to—" "To what?" Melissa interrupted. "To secure our future? Brandon, she's 63 years old. How much longer can she realistically run this diner? We're young. We have plans. This money could change our lives. But the diner means everything to her. And it will mean everything to us," Melissa said, her voice turning cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Once we have full control. Listen, my cousin Ryan is a real estate attorney. He says with the right documents, we can get her to sign over majority ownership. She trusts us. She'll do whatever we suggest." My legs almost gave out. I had to grip the prep counter to stay standing. "Sign over ownership?" Brandon's voice was hesitant, uncertain. "That seems extreme." "It's not extreme. It's smart," Melissa countered. "Think about it. She puts the inheritance into renovations, we take over operations, and then we sell. The property alone is worth $400,000 in this location. With renovations, we could get $500,000, maybe more. Split the profits, pay off our student loans, buy a house in Chicago, start our real lives. But Grandma will be fine," Melissa said firmly. "She can retire, move to a smaller place, finally rest. Brandon, she raised you after your parents died. Don't you think she deserves to stop working herself to death? We'd actually be doing her a favor." There was a long pause. I held my breath, waiting for Brandon to defend me, to say this was wrong, to remember all the sacrifices I'd made. "You're right," he finally said, and my heart shattered into a million pieces. "She does deserve to rest, and we deserve to build our own future. Let's do it." I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen where I had cooked thousands of meals, where I had taught Brandon to make pancakes when he was 10, where I had cried when his parents died and sworn to protect him, and realized my grandson was going to betray me. But I didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, something cold and calculating settled into my chest. If they wanted to play games with my life's work, I would show them exactly who Carol Henderson really was. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. I smiled at them, served breakfast, and casually mentioned, "You know, I've been thinking about what you said, Melissa. About the renovations. Maybe we should sit down with your cousin, the lawyer. Get everything organized properly." Melissa's face lit up. "That's a wonderful idea, Carol. I'll call Ryan today." While they thought they were speeding up their plan, I was building mine. That afternoon, I drove to the next town over and met with a lawyer of my own, Patricia Simmons, who specialized in business fraud. I told her everything. "Mrs. Henderson," she said after reviewing my business documents, "you still own 100% of this diner. Brandon's name on the business license doesn't give him ownership, just operating authority. Legally, this is still entirely yours. So if they try to forge documents, that's fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit theft. We're talking serious felonies." I also hired a private investigator named Marcus Chen. He cost $600 a day, but he was worth every penny. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus installed hidden cameras in the diner's office, the storage room, and near the phone in the apartment upstairs. All legally, with my written permission as the property owner. Then I made my move. Kids, I announced during Sunday dinner. I've decided to take a vacation. My friend Janet has been begging me to go on an Alaskan cruise with her. I've never taken a real vacation in 35 years, and with James's death, I realize life's too short. I'll be gone for 3 weeks. 3 weeks? Brandon looked shocked. Grandma, who'll run the diner? You too, I said with a smile. You've been wanting more responsibility. This is your chance to show me you can handle it. When I come back, we'll sign all the paperwork with Melissa's cousin. Make it official. Melissa tried to hide her excitement but failed. Carol, you deserve this vacation. Don't worry about a thing. We'll take excellent care of your diner. The next morning, I left in a taxi with suitcases, waving goodbye. But instead of going to the airport, I checked into a budget motel 15 minutes away under my maiden name. Marcus set up a laptop in my motel room where I could watch the camera feeds in real time. The betrayal unfolded faster than I expected. Day 1, they started boxing up my personal belongings. Finally, Melissa said on camera, tossing my framed photo with Sarah into a trash bag, we can make this place look professional. Day 2, they brought in an appraiser. The property and business together, you're looking at $450,000 to $500,000, the man told them. Day 3, the real estate attorney cousin arrived with documents. I watched on my laptop screen as they sat in my office. So this power of attorney, Brandon asked, pointing at papers, will let us handle the renovations while Grandma's gone? And sell if you decide that's best. Ryan, the lawyer, confirmed. Once she signs this, you'll have full legal authority to make all business decisions. All you need is her signature. About that, Melissa said, and my blood turned to ice. Brandon, you've been signing checks on your grandmother's behalf for months. Your signature looks almost identical to hers. What if we just helped the process along? Forge her signature? Brandon looked shocked. Melissa, that's illegal. It's expediting, she corrected. Carol already agreed to sign when she gets back. We're just saving time. By the time she returns, we'll have buyers lined up, and she'll thank us for handling everything efficiently. There was a long pause. My grandson, the boy I raised, the one I sacrificed everything for, took the pen. You're right, he said, and I watched him forge my signature on document after document. She'll thank us. Day 5. They listed the diner for sale with a commercial real estate agent. We're motivated sellers, Melissa told the agent. We need to close fast. The owner is elderly and has agreed to liquidate. Day 7. They started interviewing moving companies to clear out my belongings. Donate everything, Melissa instructed. The old woman won't need any of this where she's going. Where I was going. I leaned closer to the laptop screen. What do you mean? Brandon asked. I found a nice assisted living facility in Springfield, Melissa said casually. Meadowview Senior Community. $3,000 a month. We can afford it with the sale money, and she'll be taken care of. She's too old to live alone anyway. This way, everyone wins. They were planning to put me in a nursing home and steal my diner. Day 12, they received an offer. $475,000. Cash deal. 30-day closing. I watched them celebrate in my office, drinking champagne, planning their new life in Chicago with my money. Finally, Melissa said, kissing Brandon, we're free of this dump and that old woman. That old woman had seen enough. On November 15th, exactly 3 weeks after I left, I returned to the diner at 5 a.m. When my key didn't work because they'd changed the locks, I smiled. Everything was going exactly according to plan. Brandon came to the door, and I saw the panic flash across his face when he realized I was back early. Grandma, you weren't supposed to be back until next week. Surprise, I said coldly. I decided to cut my trip short. Now, open this door. We need to talk. He reluctantly opened the door. Inside, my diner looked like a stranger's business. All my personal touches were gone, replaced by modern, soulless decor. Brandon, I said, looking around at what they'd done, where are my family photos? Grandma, we can explain. Explain what? I interrupted. Explain how you changed the locks on my business? Explain where my belongings are? Or should we talk about the $475,000 offer you accepted to sell my diner? His face went white as a ghost. How did you know about that? I pulled out my phone and played a recording from the cameras. His own voice filled the diner. She'll thank us. She's too old to run this place anyway. I never went on that cruise, Brandon, I said as he collapsed into a booth. I stayed in town. I watched everything. The forged signatures, the illegal sale, planning to put me in a nursing home, all of it. Every single moment, recorded in high-definition video. Grandma, please, I can fix this. Fix what? I said, my voice breaking for the first time. Fix the fact that you threw away pictures of your mother, my daughter, like they were trash? Fix that you forged my signature, which is a federal crime? Fix that you were going to steal the business I built with 35 years of blood, sweat, and tears? That's when Melissa appeared from the kitchen. Carol, you're overreacting. We were handling business matters. Business matters? I turned on her. You mean fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit theft? Those business matters? I pulled out another phone. And before you try to talk your way out of this, I should mention that the power of attorney you forged? Completely invalid. I never signed anything. The sale you agreed to? Also invalid. You had no legal authority to sell my property. Melissa's confident expression crumbled. You can't prove any of this. Actually, I said, and dialed a number on speaker. I can. Hello, Mrs. Simmons. This is Carol Henderson. They're both here. Within 20 minutes, my lawyer Patricia Simmons arrived with 2 police officers and Detective Maria Torres from the Fraud Division. Marcus Chen followed with a laptop containing all the recorded evidence. Brandon Henderson and Melissa Henderson, Detective Torres said, reading from a document. You're being charged with forgery of legal documents, fraud, conspiracy to commit theft, and attempted elderly financial abuse. Financial abuse? Melissa shouted. We were trying to help her. Detective Torres played one of the recordings. Melissa's voice filled the diner. The old woman won't need any of this where she's going. Meadowview Senior Community, $3,000 a month. Ma'am, the detective said coldly, you plan to institutionalize the legal owner of this business, forge her signature to sell her property, and steal approximately $475,000. That's not help. That's elder abuse and grand theft. As the officers handcuffed them, Brandon finally looked at me with tears in his eyes. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I got lost. I forgot everything you taught me. For a moment, my heart softened. This was the boy I had raised, the one I had loved unconditionally. But then I remembered watching him throw away his mother's photos, forge my signature, plan my institutionalization without a second thought. Brandon, I said quietly, I worked 16-hour days for 20 years to give you a future. I sacrificed my own life so you would never feel alone. And you were going to put me in a nursing home and steal my life's work for $475,000. I know, he sobbed. I know, and I'll never forgive myself. You're 28 years old, I continued. Your mother was 28 when she died. She never got to see you grow up, to watch you graduate college, to hold her grandchildren. I gave you everything she couldn't. And this is how you repaid her memory. The officers led them to the patrol car. Melissa was still shouting about lawyers and connections, but Brandon was silent, tears streaming down his face. Mrs. Simmons explained the next steps. The forged documents are evidence. The sale is void. All your property is secure. With the video evidence, this case is airtight. They're looking at 5 to 10 years in prison, plus restitution. And the diner? I asked. Still 100% yours, Carol. Nothing they did was legal. 6 months later, Brandon pleaded guilty to all charges and received 7 years in prison. Melissa went to trial, was convicted, and received 10 years. She divorced Brandon from prison, blaming him for everything. The $180,000 inheritance went into a trust, protected from any future claims. I'm still running Carol's Corner Diner. It's been 63 years old now, and some mornings my back aches so bad I can barely stand. But when I flip on the lights at 5 a.m. and see my family photos back on the walls, the red vinyl booths I restored, the chalkboard menu I'll never replace, I feel a peace I hadn't known in years. My regular customers rallied around me when the story broke. They organized a fundraiser that covered my legal costs and then some. The local paper ran a story, "Local Grandmother Fights Back Against Elder Abuse." People I'd served for decades wrote letters thanking me for not giving up, for showing that it's never too late to defend yourself. I hired a young woman named Sophie to help me run the diner. She's 23, studying business at night school, and she reminds me of who I was at that age. Hungry, determined, honorable. I'm teaching her everything I know, and when I'm ready to retire, I'll sell her the diner at a fair price. She'll earn it through hard work, not theft. Every night before I close, I look at the photograph I have over the register now. It's Sarah and 8-year-old Brandon at his first baseball game, both smiling, both innocent. I talk to that little boy. "I'm sorry I couldn't save you from yourself," I tell him. "I gave you everything I had, but I couldn't give you character. That had to come from you. And when you lost it, when you chose greed over family, I had to let you face the consequences. Not because I stopped loving you, but because real love means holding people accountable." I've received 3 letters from Brandon in prison. I haven't opened them. Maybe someday I will. Maybe when he's served his time, learned his lessons, become the man I once believed he could be. Or maybe I won't. Maybe some betrayals are too deep, some wounds too permanent. What I've learned through all of this is that sacrifice without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. That being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. That our elders deserve respect, dignity, and protection from those who would prey on them. And that it's never, ever too late to stand up for yourself. I'm 63 years old. I've worked in this diner for 35 years. I've served over 40,000 breakfasts, raised a grandson who betrayed me, lost more than I thought I could survive. But I'm still here, still cooking, still standing. And that's not just survival. That's victory. Because the story doesn't end with a grandmother destroyed by betrayal. It ends with a 63-year-old woman who proved that age is just a number, that strength has no expiration date, and that those who try to steal from their elders will find that wisdom and justice are a powerful combination. Carol's Corner Diner is still open. Come by sometime. I'll make you breakfast, and I promise you, it'll taste like home. The kind of home built on real love, hard work, and the unshakable knowledge that I will never, ever let anyone take from me again.